Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business. Hey, it's Michael Zapersky, and today I'm very excited to have Mike Gammarino joining us. Mike, welcome.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm terrific, man. Really excited to have you on.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
For sure. So to get started, Mike, for those that aren't familiar with you and your work, just take a moment and share with us what you do.
Yeah, so I run an operations consultancy called Bluprint Partners, and we work with high-growth e-commerce companies, mostly in the Los Angeles area, and we help them scale their operations. So a lot of times what we see for new product companies are you've got a couple founders, and typically one knows the product really well because that started the idea. And then one knows how to market and sell the product. And then once you kind of have those two things together, the next piece is the operations piece. Many times as companies grow quickly, the sales and marketing of those products quickly outpaces the operations. And that's typically where we come in to provide guidance and set a really solid foundation for growth to help make sure that operations keeps pace with sales.
So Mike, I've been watching your consulting business grow during our work together, and I've been really impressed with what you've accomplished in a pretty short period of time. Before we dig into your consulting business as it is right now, take us back. Let's go back to the early days of Mike Gammarino. You got started, I believe, in engineering. Was it Georgia Tech?
Yeah, my education. I'm an industrial engineer by education, and that degree mainly focuses on processes and systems improvement. And it can be applied in a lot of different disciplines and arenas. And interestingly enough, when I graduated, I started my career actually in the semiconductor business. That's how I really got a taste for startups because it was a brand new company. Mm-hmm. And when I moved out to Portland, Oregon, it was literally a hole in the ground. And we were doing construction to build this chip factory. And I kind of cut my teeth on the startup world and the high growth product world at a company called WaferTech, and ran production lines there 24/7, 365. So it was a really great way to kind of learn how to deal with a high pressure, high volume situation in terms of manufacturing a product. And I did that for a few years. And then I got a call from a buddy of mine that I went to school with that was starting a company down in Los Angeles, and moved down to LA to help him start a company called Coders. It was a search engine for software developers. And that was about 11 or 12 years ago. And I've been in Los Angeles ever since then. The technology scene here has really grown. It's pretty concentrated in the Bay Area, but LA has really come of age, I think, in the last decade. And e-commerce, the content and commerce and media and technology play with Hollywood start to develop about 10 years ago. And it was when celebrities were trying to figure out how to extend their brands beyond television and movies, right? So they started getting into products. And then they said, well, how can we market those products and get them out to more folks than just here in Los Angeles and retail stores? So this media and technology and content play started to emerge here in LA. And that's when I started working with a company called Beachmint. And it was a startup that combined all those things I just mentioned. We basically launched different product brands around jewelry and shoes and apparel and home goods, and paired it with a celebrity to help design the product. And then I handled all the operations behind that. So all of the fulfillment, customer service, basically anything involving package movement, warehousing, supply chain. And we grew that company very fast. It was an amazing experience. And then I helped start a company called The Black Tux, which was my next venture. It's a play off of my experience at Beachmint. It was an online tuxedo and suit rental company, and ran operations there. We have a warehouse here in Los Angeles and just opened one actually up in Pennsylvania. So we have 2 distribution centers to serve the country, and built those 2 companies up from an operations perspective.
I know that you've taken multiple companies, or you played a role in multiple companies, going from 0 to over 20 million in under 4 years. And you have obviously a process that you developed. I mean, you're a process guy, you're an engineer by trade in terms of education and where you got started. And you're using that process with your consulting clients, I know. But what do you really feel was like the biggest factor that allowed those companies to grow so quickly?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a combination of a lot of things. We raised money, so we had capital to be able to hire the right people. So in that case, when you're talking about e-commerce and a product company, it goes back to that three-pronged approach that I mentioned, where we had a great product, we knew how to sell it, and then we knew how to get it to our customers. If one of those three items isn't working right, it's really going to be a problem. And today I really focus on helping other companies with that third leg of the stool and just making sure that this great product that they put together actually gets to their customers on time and when they like it.
Right. So you had multiple successes, right, as you took these companies from a starting point to very significant growth levels and fast growth. Why did you decide to become a consultant?
When we were growing the Black Tux, we grew into a very successful organization. And I was thinking about what I wanted to do next and started poking around because I'm an early stage startup guy. I like building the foundation and helping companies with that and solving those really challenging problems as you grow that really sometimes you've never solved before. And as I mentioned, I've been in LA for a little over 10 years. I've seen the e-commerce industry here really grow. And we've all seen it, right? Amazon, I feel like Amazon Prime is in the news every day, right? And I think it's on people's minds. And most of the folks in the United States have become accustomed to and are comfortable with ordering products online. Mm-hmm. For me personally and professionally, a few things came together at once. One, I felt like my experience was deep enough and broad enough that I could go out on my own, right? Number two, I felt my network was strong enough that I could put together, hopefully, a consulting company through word of mouth as I started to grow, at least in the beginning. And then number three, there's a big white space here in Los Angeles, especially, I think, for seasoned operations professionals. And part of that is because the growth of e-commerce has happened so quickly, and the folks needed in those industries, especially operations, hasn't kept up pace. I get hit up all the time for full-time operations positions at growing e-commerce companies. And many times we dovetail that into a consulting opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's actually a great lead gen for additional consulting opportunities. But that's what we saw. For me, it was three different things. It was me and my professional career. It was my network. And then there was just a big white space that I saw in terms of a skill set that I could help multiple companies at once instead of focusing on a single organization.
So clearly you thought through how you would be successful in launching your own consulting business. Did you have some fears? Was there anything on your mind that you were really concerned or worried about before you took that step?
Oh, yeah. For me, it was a big change. I've always been part of an organization, and I'm a great number two guy, right? And I've never kind of been like the number one guy, meaning like the CEO. I've been the COO or the VP of ops. And so for me, there was fear around, one is nobody's doing this, right? So my thought was, well, there's a couple of reasons why nobody's doing something in terms of a specific type of business. One is that you can't make a business out of it.
Right.
And two is that nobody's thought of it or nobody's basically tried to fill that void before. So what I did to quell those fears, I spent a good 3 or 4 months just meeting with my peers and other companies and people that I knew here in LA and just running this idea by them to understand, is outsourcing operations for e-commerce companies something? Well, I knew they needed it, but the question is, was it the right way to provide the service? Because people typically don't think about that. They think about, I'll outsource marketing, I'll outsource my accounting. But outsourcing operations is not something that's often thought about. So yeah, there was definite fear about how do I get clients? Will this model work? And I've never done business development before. I mean, I'm an engineer. So in my previous lives, vendors would come to me. I didn't have to knock on doors. So trying to figure out how to grow the business and focus on not just my core competency was something that I definitely thought I might need help with.
So one thing that I've noticed, Mike, because we work with a lot of consultants who have a technical background where sales and marketing doesn't necessarily come naturally to them, is that oftentimes they feel uncomfortable reaching out to new prospective clients or to people that they don't yet have a relationship with, even to validate their ideas, their assumptions that you took, right? That you mentioned that was very helpful. And I know that we talked a lot about, but how did you feel about that? Was that natural to you? Or do you also feel some sense of uncomfort in reaching out to new prospective clients to talk about your thoughts around the business and your service offering?
While we work with a lot of seasoned and experienced consultants here at Consulting Success, I'm often contacted by new early-stage consultants. Invariably, the question I'm asked is, what are the steps I should take to become a successful consultant and grow my consulting business to my first 6 figures per year? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've opened the doors for our Momentum program. This is our most popular program for early-stage consultants, and it has helped almost 1,000 consultants to start, run, and grow successful consulting businesses. It gives you the step-by-step plan to help you with your messaging, your fees, and pricing strategies, how to win more proposals, how to go to market more effectively, developing a marketing system to generate leads consistently, and so much more. And right now, until September the 19th, you can sign up for Momentum and get 50% off the regular price by going to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO. Only 100 spots are available to join Momentum and get 50% off. This deal is only available until September the 19th or until all 100 spots are gone. We won't be opening up new spots in this program for several months, so don't wait. Go to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO.
Definitely there's some discomfort there, right? And I think that goes along with the confidence of not knowing how your idea is going to be perceived. Since you and I have started working together, one of the things you preach is you've got to get out there and you have to be in the mindset of, if I know I can help this person and this organization, I owe it to them to try to help them, right? And I think that using that, getting in that right frame of mind and that mindset, and having confidence in your skill set and taking an assessment of a person's organization and where they are and their problem set. And if I think I can help them, then I should try. So it's just a shift in mindset and confidence when you're going out there. But yeah, there's a definite fear of how your ideas are going to be perceived and accepted. It's always out there. I mean, it's even out there for me today. We're working on some new stuff now. Yeah, it's a little scary going out there asking for people's opinions.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about that. I know we've been talking about effective ways to productize your consulting services recently, and you've seen more clients come on board. Your business is growing. But what about productizing really appeals most to you?
I'm a systems guy and I'm a process guy. And going into each client and customizing a solution is definitely a great way to provide a service to a client. However, it takes time, it takes a lot of effort, and you may get to a point where you just can't come to an agreement on how to proceed. So with the productization of services, we're working on a monthly product, right, that we can go back to the customer every month and help solve some of their most pressing problems. And what I find the most reassuring about that is you essentially can put a menu together for them of something for them to choose from. Mm-hmm. So they can see really clearly what you offer and determine, without a lot of effort on my part, customizing that solution to a certain extent. So for us also, the recurring revenue is something that I'm definitely interested in. We typically go from large project to large project. And while those are great when you land them, in terms of the revenue coming into the business can be a little more sporadic. So we're looking to develop some products around some key problems that we see our customers face to try to even that out. And then also use it as a stepping stone for those larger projects. If we can get in with one of our set projects, they're tailored in a way that we're essentially monitoring the business. Mm-hmm. And when we start to see things go maybe the wrong way, we can provide a higher level of a project instead of that product, right? And so it dovetails nicely, I think, into additional work at a higher margin that we can also provide for our clients.
Yeah, I really love that because I'm saying we've been talking about internally as well. And we're always chatting about different models for business growth and where we want to take the company. And for other businesses that we've sold too, the allure and the power of a recurring revenue model is a really great one. It provides a lot more stability and also a lot more value for the company, for any company, right? If you're looking to actually exit from that business down the road. And even if you're not, just still as an entity that could be sold if something was to come up and you needed to change for any reason, health or otherwise, I think it's a really good move. In your experience though, Mike, You come from the startup world, working with multiple companies, fast growing companies, helping them to really scale. How does the recurring revenue model fit in? I mean, is that something that you've always ensured or want to ensure that is part of any business model that you're creating, or not necessarily?
No, I think it was something I had thought about from the very beginning. It was a way to work, to weave that into the revenue stream for Bluprint Partners. And mainly for me, it's because I come from the W-2 world. I've been a W-2 employee my entire career, and not having to worry about where that next paycheck is coming from. There's a lot of comfort in that, but there's also a lot of limitations in that too, from your work freedom, who you're working with, and even as an income, there's an income cap there too. There's a trade-off there, but there's also risk reward. For me, what the recurring revenue base puts forward is it allows me to make sure that it's a going concern and I can actually take bigger risks and not feel desperation when we're interacting with a client and trying to land that bigger project. So for me, I think we can take bigger swings, because if that swing doesn't pan out, we're okay. And we can go try to hit another home run with somebody else. Whereas when you're just looking at those big engagements, you can feel a sense of it's a little scary if it doesn't work out, right?
I think for anyone and all of you listening to this or reading the transcript on consultingsuccess.com, I hope that you take away or at least give some thought to what Mike is sharing with us here today in terms of the value of productizing and the opportunity for recurring revenue, because these are two things that can really help you to scale your business, to create a lot more freedom in terms of your time and your flexibility. And that's what most of us want, right? We get into business not just to make money, we get into business to create the lifestyle that we want. And money is one thing that can help you to create that level of freedom and flexibility to do what you ultimately want to do, whether that's spending more time with family or hobbies or traveling and so forth. So these are two things that you should certainly be considering for your own consulting business and finding ways to work into it if you haven't already, if that's the model that you want to use. Mike, for you, in your journey as a consultant to this point, what's been the most eye-opening, the most surprising for you?
I think for me, it's spending time on business development and learning that piece of it has been eye-opening for me, because as I mentioned, just didn't have to do it before. And I think learning how to do that, and that was one of the reasons, actually, it was after I left the Black Tux that I realized I wasn't maybe feeling as fulfilled, is because that learning piece of it wasn't there for me like it had been before, because I'd done that multiple times. So it was really eye-opening, understanding that piece of the business and also how much time you really need to spend on it. And it's something you and I have talked a lot about, and you've pushed me a lot to do that, is to dedicate time to BD. And if you don't, you'll hit some point where a client engagement will end earlier than you expected it to, and you end up running dry, right? So Definitely. I think that side of running a consultancy has been new for me, but it's been fun to learn how to do it.
Yeah. And what's really interesting, my kind of observation of now working with hundreds of consultants through this process, is that you reach a tipping point in your marketing, in your business development, where as you're climbing that hill initially, it can feel really challenging. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of periods where you're going to question yourself and what you're doing. But as you keep chipping away, and it doesn't mean that as you're chipping away, things are going to always feel good. But as you continue to, you make strides, you make progress, you start to learn what's really working and what isn't working as well, and then continue to optimize and adjust. And then you start to reach like that summit. You reach that higher level where momentum and movement just happens, and you don't have to push as hard as you do in those early stages. But the big lesson that I've seen so many people learn, and sometimes it's the hard way, is that they stop. As they're climbing the mountain, they give up, or they create reasons or excuses for why things aren't working. And in many cases, they're so close, like they're just so close to getting it, the real result that they want, but they give up too early. In your case, Mike, you've been doing such a great job of implementing and making progress. I'm really, really excited to continue watching the growth of your business. And I want to encourage everyone listening here, if you'd like to learn more about Mike and his company, Bluprint Partners, and just the work that he's up to, because he's just really exceptional at what he does. Mike, what is the best way for people to connect with you and just learn more about your work?
Yeah. So, our website is bluprintpartners.com, and it's BLUPRINT. So we have our contact information there. And then my email is just mike@bluprintpartners.com.
Terrific. And if you're involved in anything related to e-commerce, Mike is your guy on the operations side, the best I know at this, hands down. So Mike, thanks again so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.